Hey ladies, I'm Aisha Watkins, founder of Women of Project Management, and this is the Women of Project Management podcast, where I have candid conversations with all my favorite women inside the Women of Project Management membership in audio. Please don't forget to subscribe and review everywhere you listen to podcasts. I'm Aisha Watkins, founder of Women of Project Management, and today we're going to be talking to Haja Tunkara, and we're going to be talking about imposter syndrome. So before we get started, let me give a quick intro and give you a little background on Haja and her experience in the project management industry. Haja has worked in project management over the last 16 years. She has worked for Fortune 500 companies such as Progressive Insurance, Farmers Insurance, Vitamix, Dole Foods, and PNC Bank as a senior IT project manager. Haja obtained her bachelor's degree in business administration and later went on to earn her PMP certification. So she's in the PMP club. Haja currently resides in the Cleveland, Ohio area. So Haja, it is so beautiful to meet you. How are you today?
I am well. Thank you so much. It's wonderful to meet you too. I'm glad to be here.
Good. I'm glad you're here. So I know I gave a little bit of an intro, but I know that you have, some amazing experience. Why don't you give us an intro on you, how you got started in the project management industry so we can learn more about you?
So I started off in the project management space at Progressive Insurance, not coming in the door. I didn't even know anything about project management. I'm just this girl that wants a job at a good company. And so I started at Progressive right after high school as a call center rep. And Progressive offers amazing opportunities to excel in their company. And I took full advantage of that. After 6 months at Progressive, I became pregnant. And it was like, okay. But it didn't deter my path. I was, at that time I was 19 years old. I was pregnant, but I grew in the organization. And about 4 years later, I got into project management. I came in at an entry level. I was a project admin. Didn't know anything about the field. I didn't even know this career existed. And so I got into the IT space and then I grew. And so I stayed at Progressive for an additional 5 years in that space before moving on. I didn't have my education. I didn't have my degree. I was like fresh, new to it. But I really credit Progressive and the certifications that I gained while I was there. We had a whole IT university where I learned a ton about project management and I was able to really blow up, so to say, right? So that's how I got into it. I really took advantage of the opportunities that Progressive offered me, and I used the education in-house to learn more before later earning my bachelor's degree. Yeah.
Nice. I love that. So it's funny because, people find the network through different types of ways, right? So one of the things that I do share, and we've never talked about it, is I kind of did a similar for project management. I kind of just stumbled into it. And so I was like I was actually in a doctorate program at Xavier University in New Orleans. And then I realized I didn't like chemistry at all. And then Hurricane Katrina happened too. So, got to make decisions. But then I had finished out undergrad already. So I eventually moved back to Chicago, start working at Walgreens headquarters. And then I end up stumbling into a project coordinator role. And then I was like, I didn't know it existed. But then I fell in love with it. So it's funny how those, so a lot of people, some people actually plan to get into project management, but a lot of people I talk to, they kind of just stumble into it, or someone tells them like, you're really good at this. This is what you should be doing. So it's funny. So when you got into the role, I guess, your first role in project management, what did you think? Did you feel like it was a good fit for you, or what were your thoughts? Because sometimes project management departments are crazy too.
Oh my God, they're all very crazy. And this was no different. I mean, I will be honest with you. I was like, what am I doing here? What am I doing? And in fact, it was like, I didn't get the position. I applied for the position. I didn't get it at first. There was a guy who was straight out of college. They hired him and he didn't like it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they called me and
Yeah.
they, I went through another interview and then I got the position. And when I got there, I still didn't know. Like I knew what the description said, but I'm like, well, how does this work? And
Yeah.
it wasn't until I really got into the fundamentals. What I loved about coming in as a project admin or coordinator was that I got the basics, and the basics matter, right? And so you'll have a lot of project managers who didn't have that foundation, and it can lead to a lot of struggle. So I had a ton of amazing mentors. This one particular one at Progressive, she was tough. She was tough on me. She challenged me. So I felt out of my league. I felt like this little black girl, excuse me, that's like, why are you here? You have this child, and it's like, you're not even supposed to be here. You need a degree, and they're hard on you. And I'm so grateful to her, and I love her to this day. 16 years later, I still adore this woman because she challenged me and she pushed me to really do the work. So yeah.
Good. So ours kind of mirrored a little bit, but mine went opposite. there was one woman, she was not on my particular team, but she was a part of the PMO. And she was mean to me. I think she thought I was way too chipper than I should have been.
Yeah.
I'm a morning person. So she was, she eventually came around. But that initial, it was interesting. There were no women of color at all. There was another department that I ended up working with, and I absolutely loved them. They weren't project managers, they were QA, but they saved me because they, were very supportive. But, the guys on my team, they were supportive. Management was not always at all. So I did that coordinator role, and then eventually they had me doing the project management projects. Eventually they had me assigning out the assignments and doing projects, and I was on IT side too. I forgot.
Okay, awesome.
And they would not give me that title. They wouldn't give me the title, and I had to fight for it. And I was like, wait a minute, I'm doing everything. I'm doing everything they're doing. I'm even assigning out projects to them. And I wasn't getting, anything. So eventually I got the title and I got everything. Yeah. But it's interesting because I think times are different now. There's a lot more project management roles out there, and there's maybe hopefully more people to look to in project management. I mean, that's definitely the reason why we have the Women in Project Management platform, to make sure that as women that we're supporting one another, right? That we see one another, that we know we exist is half the battle. But then also, and I had a few people, not many, most people get it, but a few people ask, well, why do you have to support women and women of color? Like, you're all women, what's the problem? And it's some people, most people do, but some people don't get that we need a special invitation as women of color, because there's so many things. There's not a whole bunch of things out there for women in project management, but for women of color, you would think that we don't exist if you Google us. And it's even worse for Black men. And so I've worked with one Black man in project management my whole career, and that's crazy because I've worked with a lot
I think that's the case for me too.
And that's crazy. So I think that, just to be able to, just like me and you, we both had a team where there was at least a woman around, in your case, very supportive, which is amazing. In my case, not initially. And I mean, I'm just one of those people who the more you try to ignore me, I'm like, good morning. So after a while, I know I just drive.
You gonna get all of this, right?
Yeah, I know. Like, you're not gonna stop it. So, eventually she was supportive in the way that she could be supportive. But then on the other hand, this was like my first beginning into project management. But there was another woman. She was not on my team, but I ended up working with her earlier in my career. And thank God that didn't shape me, because she was not a woman of color. Not that you have to be supportive in project management. But one day she just looked at me, and she didn't really know me. And she was like, what do you want to do with your life? Do you want to accomplish anything? And I wanted to say, at that point, I had went back. I got my MBA.
Yeah.
I was working on my certification. And please keep in mind, I had a partial doctor's degree.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
didn't
Yeah.
finish it, but it
Yeah.
was the way she talked to me.
Yeah.
And, I think it's important to just have one, of course, representation, but that support system that you can see someone who they don't have to be a woman. They don't even have to be a woman of color, but just someone who's supportive.
Absolutely.
Luckily, with a team of all men, they were all very supportive. And I just kept
You know
going.
what?
Yeah.
It's so funny you say that because you're right. Like, I feel that I have historically worked better with men.
Yeah.
The dynamic has been better. I have definitely had some challenges with women in this, actually across my entire career. But I'm like you. I'm like, well, guess what? I know it's not personal.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
so it's not me, it's you.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna keep being me.
Yeah.
But yes, you're right. Yeah.
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 One thing I found too is sometimes, and this is just hindsight, right? Because during the time I was like, she's mean. But in hindsight, I could also see that some of those women who may have been a little bit not nice or not supportive, some of it may not have come from like this evil place,
Exactly.
but
Yes.
they may have had their own stressors on them of being the only woman, the only
Woman.
other woman
Absolutely.
besides you in the whole department,
Yes.
and having, especially on the tech side, right? And having their own pressures. So,
Yes.
you kind of look back on it and you're like, you just, as you kind of progress in your career, you think about like, well, what was their stressors too?
Yes,
So,
absolutely. And that's the compassionate side. That's super
yeah,
important.
yeah,
And I do, honestly, for me personally, if I don't have that side, I would not, or if I had not had that side, I wouldn't be where I am right
yeah,
now
yeah,
because
yeah.
everything would have been personal, right? And
Mhm.
it's like, it's not. I know that everyone has their thing going on. And to
Yeah,
that point, as women, when you mention that, just know, I mean, we collectively struggle with, feelings of inferiority because we've been taught that. So it's that we have our own challenges. So there we should be more allies, but we do, unfortunately, we compete. And
yeah,
that may have been what you were experiencing. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 I love that. So tell me about imposter syndrome. I know you've built, your community on Instagram. You are in Cleveland. I am in Atlanta, but I feel all your good vibes from
Yeah.
everything. Honestly, everything that you post, it really does come through of
Yeah.
just that support and just that feeling of, just good vibes all together. So tell me why you even started imposter syndrome. I mean, I'm sure it could go a lot of different ways. There's a lot of different things that we encounter on all levels, but tell me why you even decided to start it.
Yeah, I mean, it's first of all, thank you. I'm so happy that the energy that you receive is what I am intending to give, because that was actually one of my posts recently. And it was something that came to me, and that we intend a lot of things, but how we have to make sure that it's received the way that we intend it. And we're responsible for that. So I am happy to hear that.
Yeah.
Um, the reason I'm very entrepreneurial minded, right? And I am consulting still in a project management role. I want to be on my own. And so everything that I can do, I have other side businesses too. But I said to myself, what can I do in a space that I know well? And I said, you know what? Over these 16 years, I know that I could have used a mentor or a coach. And one of the things that, a lot of companies offer that support, right? You think, right? But oftentimes when you're in a company and you say, hey, I need help or I'm struggling, you could feel that, oh my God, they're going to think I don't know what I'm doing. They're going to look at me differently. Whatever it is that runs through our naughty minds, right? We can sometimes, can cloud us and stop us from seeking the assistance within our organizations that we need. So I thought, well, there are women I know who have got to be like I have been, who need some support, even if it's just an ear. And so I can train project management, right? Maybe I can help people with their PMP exams or PM fundamentals, but really helping to coach them through their mindset issues that I know that I've struggled with. So I started thinking about, what do I want to call this thing? And, a few things came to mind. And then I thought, I'm going to call it the Imposter PM. I am not kidding you. I was in the car. My heart started racing. And it was like, you can't name it that, right? It's like the imposter starts to show up. I mean, I literally.
To listen to the rest of this conversation, join us inside the Women of Project Management membership at womenofpm.com. Thanks for listening.